Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. I hope you're enjoying them as much as I am making them. Today's episode is brought to you again by my highly sought after ebook, 108 Social Media Content Creation Ideas. Yep, 108 of them. A little while ago, I was really frustrated. I couldn't think of what to put on social media for both my accounts and the accounts that I work for. And so I did a word dump and I just wrote down everything I thought was possible that you could put on social media. And between that and a bit of Googling, I came up with a list of 108 of them. And then, of course, I thought, well, if this is my problem, perhaps it's your problem as well. So I made them into a little ebook and you can download them by going to www.socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/108. That's www.socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/108 and download the ebook there. I promise it will give you lots of inspiration when writer's block is taking hold of you. Bit of a pro tip though, make sure you print it out and pin it somewhere that you can look at it so it keeps inspiring you time and time again. Today we're going to stick with our New Year theme and we're actually going to concentrate a little bit on Instagram as we go forward, how to use it in 2019 and how it might look just a little bit different this year as well. But first, today's discovery for you all. Have you ever wondered how engaging you are on Instagram or how influential you are? Or how influential someone else is? Well, there's actually a calculator for that. It's on a website, flanax.com/engagement calculator. Now, I'm going to spell that for you because I really don't even know if I'm saying it right. So it's PHLANX.com/engagement calculator. PHLANX.com/engagement calculator. And all you need to do is put in your Instagram handle, or you can actually do some sticky beaking into other people's social media and put in their Instagram handle and see what sort of result you get. It'll come up with a score for you. But of course, scores are subjective like everything else on social media. And I definitely don't want you to get hung up on the score that you get. If you have a really small audience, and they're really engaged with you, then you might get a really, really high score. If you have a really large audience and only a certain percentage of them are highly engaged, which, you know, as you get bigger is definitely the way social media goes. You can't seem to hold absolutely everybody in your engagement. So your score might be a little bit lower. So I don't want you to get hung up on the score, but still I think it's a really great indicator. Anywhere around 8 or above, I think you're doing a sensational job. It's also a really good metric to use if you've ever thought about influence marketing. So influencer marketing is where you get someone who has the same audience as you or the same audience that you want to target, and you either give them money or you give them your product and you ask them to promote you on their social media. And there's lots of influencer marketing on Instagram especially. So this is a really great way of just, if you're thinking about doing some influencer marketing, having a look at using this engagement calculator. You know, someone has 50,000 followers and you think, wow, you know, that's really good. It might turn out that they're not actually as influential as you think they are. Maybe they have 50,000 followers that they've paid for and they're really not engaged at all. Or maybe someone has 1,000 followers, so 1,000 people that you want to get in front of because they're your ideal client as well. And they might be highly engaged. So they might be worth looking at for an influencer for your product or your service. So So don't always go for the accounts with the big numbers because, big numbers could mean unengaged or it might mean really engaged. But this little calculator is just one of the tools in your toolkit that you might go through when you're deciding whether or not to engage someone as an influencer. So if you're on Instagram, go and have a little bit of fun with this. Put your handle in and have a look at what your score comes up with. It might be a really great way of you thinking of looking at the content you're actually putting on Instagram and think, okay, so my audience is really engaged with the content, so tick that box. Or my content really isn't that engaging, so do I need to look at my content strategy a little bit harder coming into 2019 and the things that I share? Am I attracting the audience who wants to read what I'm doing? And I guess on the flip side of that, are you attracting the audience that you actually want to attract? Now, you don't need me to tell you that Instagram is the it platform when it comes to social media at the moment. If your target audience is on Instagram, then that's where you should be too. It's really that simple. But whilst you hear a lot of people say that Facebook is actually losing ground and losing audience, and I guess when it comes to millennials, that could very possibly be true. If I look at my own children who are teenagers, that certainly seems to be the trend. Facebook is gaining in other age groups, so please don't desert Facebook just yet. But certainly if you aren't on Instagram and your ideal client is, then perhaps that's somewhere you need to be. And Instagram is certainly growing at an enormous rate. There are actually 9 million active monthly users on Instagram, and that's actually an Australian stat. It's not a US stat. I very much believe that, we need to start looking at the stats that relate to us here in Australia. But there are actually 600 million active monthly users worldwide. But we actually have 9 million of them here in Australia. If you're interested in having a look at the stats for Australian social media, I've got a link in my show notes for a website that you can go and check all that out if you're interested. So with 9 million people on this platform actively using it every month, what do we need to do in 2019? How is it going to look different in 2019? In last week's episode, we did chat about, engaging with people and being more social on social media. And I think that is so seriously important. But I think I've said enough about that for this subject for now. If you haven't listened to episode 2, then maybe you could head back there and have a listen. But basically the gist was get social on social media in 2019 or risk becoming irrelevant. But what else can we expect from a platform like Instagram in 2019? So it won't surprise you at all to hear that Instagram stories is on the top of my list. And realistically, I think that they should be on the top of your priority list as well. Your Instagram stories are just growing and growing and growing. For those of you who aren't sure what stories are, they are the little round circles above your feed when you hop into Instagram, and they last for about 24 hours. You can save them, of course, but they disappear from that particular feed after 24 hours. The majority of people on Instagram are looking at stories first. They're actually scrolling left to right or right to left. I'm not quite sure which way that goes, but rather than scrolling up and down into the feeds. And with limited time that everyone has to be on social, you really need to be where your audience is going first. And at the moment, the trend is growing that they are going to stories first. I'll be doing an episode really shortly on stories, so make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss that one. But if you've never done stories before or you aren't sure what to do, start looking at what other people are doing, but start looking really strategically. What engages you with their stories? What calls to action are they actually using in their stories? And what gets you to click or watch the whole story, or what makes you come back next time to their social platforms? With stories getting absolutely so much love, it won't surprise you at all to learn that your in-feed engagement may decrease in 2019 if you haven't already seen it decreasing. So your in-feed engagement, of course, is your up and down, people scrolling up and down. It's one of those inherent problems with dealing with social media and algorithm changes. If the algorithm changes, us business owners need to change what we do. If our customers change their habits, we simply need to change our habits too. There are things that you can do when it comes to your falling in-feed engagement. The first one, again, is what I spoke about in episode 2, and that is activating a reach out strategy. Get out there. Go find people to chat to. Go find some people to engage with and stop wishing that your ideal clients would find you. Make sure that your content is what your ideal client wants to read and what they will engage with. And have your posts have mini calls to actions in them as a reminder that what you want your reader to do after they've read your post. So mini calls to actions are like, things like double tap if you feel the same, or, did you like this, or tell me your experience or your thoughts, and things like that. Actually giving them, the reader, instructions on what you want them to do next. Stop waiting for the reader to guess what you want them to do, and actually specifically tell them within the post what you want them to do. Go to my bio to download, to click the link, or whatever the call to action is. In 2019, hashtags won't really work like they used to either. I'm really sorry. I feel like I'm just crushing our souls just a wee bit with every point, but please stick with me. I do have some, a point I'd like to make. And basically, I just want to let you know this information so you can be a little bit more strategic in finding your ideal customers, or having them find you, the ones that will actually do business with you eventually, because that's the goal of being on social media. Now, don't get me wrong, hashtags aren't going to be irrelevant. They're definitely not what I'm saying. In fact, it's really quite the opposite. They will be one of the most important tools you'll actually have in your little Instagram toolbox. They just won't work like they used to when it comes to passively growing your following. Simply using hashtags won't equal people finding you. You need to make sure that your hashtags are relevant, that people are actually looking for them, and that you don't use the same set of hashtags for every single post you do. Make the hashtags relevant for the photo that you have, or for the message that you're getting across. The days of simply posting a picture and putting up some hashtags are really sadly gone if you want to attract people into your world who will one day do business with you. Bland and curated feeds are fading fast as well, which is really good news for most of us and really bad news for some of us. We've all seen the Instagram feeds that are so highly colourful, so coordinated in everything they do. It's like unicorns rested their delicate feet on their feeds and rainbows appeared. All right, that might be a little bit dramatic, but you know the ones that I am talking about. The perfect feed, the perfect gallery, or so it seems. If you dig just a little bit into galleries that are absolutely perfect, you'll see that perfect yellow rose photo that rests, in the yellow feed of the grammar has absolutely nothing, and I mean literally nothing, to do with the post or the grammar or their business. Its sole purpose is to ensure the perfect color coordinated feed and gallery stays that way. And this, my friend, is the type of feed that in 2019 will fade into the pit of no engagement. Now, don't get me wrong, investing in and posting high quality images for content is still super, super important, but it's less about the gallery and it's more about the post individually. It's more about the message, the story that you're telling, because Instagram is a storytelling platform. It's about the brand and the value you're giving to your reader and your engager. It's more about that than what it is about having a perfect gallery feed. Now, I'm not saying you can't have both. Maybe you can. All I'm saying is it shouldn't and it can't be the goal of your Instagram feed. Your goal cannot be to have a perfect gallery. You need to make your followers love you for your stories and for you, rather than your curated, unicorn-inspired perfect feed. And perfection is a trap, my fellow small business owners, and it's definitely not something we should ever aspire to, ever. Okay, so that's a bit of a wrap for this episode, number 3. Just to go through a few points again on how to use Instagram in 2019 and how it just might be changing a little bit. My first point was about stories, hopping on board and learning stories, or if you use them more frequently. Watch for falling in feed engagement and start activating your reach out strategy to combat this. Understanding that hashtags aren't going to passively grow your list like they used to anymore. So you've got to get strategic about the hashtags you use, make them as important as your captions, and do some research around the ones you use, the ones you wish to use, and the ones your ideal clients are looking for. And the fourth and final point was the perfect feed cannot be your goal. Perfect curated galleries are on the way out, and it's time to concentrate on message, captions, beautiful imagery that matches both of them, and the value you bring to your audience. So that, my friends, is the end of episode 3 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Of course, I'll be back next Thursday with some more marketing know-how. And if you're really liking this podcast already, I'd love you to head over to wherever you listen and leave a rating and maybe even a comment. You know, those things for podcasters like me are absolute gold. And truthfully, hand on heart, I will be eternally grateful. So also, if you'd like to stay in touch between podcasts, then let's get social on social. The links are in my show notes, or you can simply search social media and marketing on Facebook or Jen Donovan on Insta and LinkedIn. I can't wait for us to become better friends. And remember, small business peeps, as my opening song says, there's no point in dreaming small.
Oh, if you feel lonely, say it loud. There's no time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud. Be true and let us see you for the star that you are.